Hey besties, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Amara, and on this channel we post sewing tutorials, pattern draftings, DIYs and many more. This particular tutorial is going to be on this beautiful dress you can see on your screen. This dress was inspired by Prudent and she is a magnificent designer. The moment I saw this dress, I just knew I had to create one for myself. Now, it doesn't matter the level of experience you have. I'm going to be taking you through each and every step you need to recreate this for yourself or for a client. Now, if this seems like something you're interested in, stick with me to the end of this tutorial and let's get started. With me here, I have the fabrics I'll be using to recreate this. First of all is this lace. I have it about 1 yard, and this is what I'll be using to create the yoke and the sleeves. I also have this crepe fabric which I'll be using for the main body of the dress. What I used to recreate mine was 2 yards, so you can use about 2 to 3 yards to create yours depending on your size. I have other things here, my pattern paper and my drawing tools. To draft out the pattern for the upper bodice, I've already gone ahead to mark out my measurements on my pattern paper and I ruled a straight line across. Now, as a total beginner, don't worry, I'll be putting a pictorial representation to explain this to you. First of all, I came down from the top of my pattern paper by about 0.5 inch and I have my starting line there, which is also the shoulder line. Next is the shoulder to the bust point, which is 11.5, shoulder to underbust, which is 15.5, and then shoulder to waist, which is 18.5 for me. Make sure you are taking your own measurement. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is to label each of these lines using an abbreviation. Here I have my shoulder line, then the bust point, the underbust, and the waistline. The next thing is to mark the neckline, and from the dress we are recreating, we have a bishop neckline or a turtle neckline, but this neckline is not high. It is the one that is laying flat on the yoke, as you can see here. I'm just going to go ahead and label this part my center front and this my side front. Now, on the shoulder line, I'll be marking a width of 3.5 inches instead of 3 inches. We'll be marking 3.5 inches, and I'm going to come down with the depth of 3.5 inches also. Now, I'm going to connect this with a curve to get my neckline. Also, on the shoulder line, I'm going to mark half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8.5 there, and from that point I'm going to come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope, and then I'll connect this into the neckline. After doing that, the next point you will be getting is your chest line, and to get the chest line, you will divide your bust measurements by 6 and add 1.5 to that. For me, I have 8.25. I'll just mark that there from the shoulder slope and then rule a straight line across. I'll just be labeling this the chest line. On this chest line, you will also mark half of your shoulder measurement. For me, I have 8.5, and then I'll connect that with a straight line into the shoulder slope. To get your armhole curve, you divide what you have from the shoulder slope to the chest line by 2. Then come in from that point by 0.5 inch and mark it there. On the chest line, you are going to mark quarter of your bust measurement. For me, I have 10 inches. Then you connect this back into this midpoint here and then back into the shoulder slope using your curve. For the dart, you'll be marking half of your nipple to nipple measurement from the center front on the bust point down to the waistline. Half of my nipple to nipple measurement is 4, so I'm going to mark that on the bust point and also mark that on the waistline. Then I'm going to connect this together with a straight line. On the waistline, come out by 0.5 inch on both sides of your dart, and then connect this back into the bust point just like you see me doing here. Divide what you have on your shoulder slope by 2. So I'm just going to place my tape there, and the measurement I have here is 5 inches. So half of 5 inches is 2.5. I'm just going to mark this there and then connect what you have from that midpoint back into your bust point just like this. The next thing is to place your round body measurements. And to place your round body measurements, we already marked quarter of our bust measurement on the chest line. We'll be marking the same thing on the bust point. Then on the waistline, also mark quarter of your waist measurement. Then you'll be replacing these darts. What I have here is 1 inch, so I'm just going to replace that. Then I'm going to go ahead and connect these points together to get my body shape. Before we proceed, I would like to make something clear. The shoulder to the waist in front is longer than the shoulder to the waist at the back, especially for women. And this is because of the bust in front. It's occupying more space, therefore making the shoulder to the waist in front longer. And to eliminate this, we'll be taking a bust dart, okay? So if you're not able to get your difference for yourself or for a client, you'll be using 1.5 inch, and this works for a lot of people. Also, I'll be using 1.5 inch too. So on this bust point, on this side, I'm going to come down by 1.5 inch and I'm going to connect it into the bust point just like this. Now I'll be shading this dart because we'll be taking it out, and to do that, cut through your shoulder dart just like this all the way to the bust point. Don't cut it all the way to the bust point, just leave a few inches before the bust point so you don't cut this out. Then also cut through this bust line here until you get to almost your bust point, okay? Now what we'll be doing now is to close this up. I'm just going to take this way and cover this dart that I took here, and we'll be taping it down. You guys, I just realized that I'm out of tape. How did I not know that? Anyways, pins to the rescue. I'll be using my pin to pin it down just like this. Then, as you notice by this side, the line is no longer straight, so I'm just going to blend it out. Eliminated the difference between the front and the back waistline. The next thing you'll be doing now is to shape in your underbust so you have more fitting on your bustier. To do that, what you have to do is to get your round underbust measurement. For me, I have 34, and what I'll be doing is to get quarter of 34. That's 34 divided by 4, and what I have is 8.5. Now what you get, you are going to minus the quarter of your bust measurement from it, okay? So the quarter of my bust measurement is 10 and the quarter of my underbust is 8.5. So I'm going to say 10 minus 8.5. okay, I have 1.5. so this 1.5 I got now, I'm going to share it to both sides of the dart, which means I'm marking 0.75 to both sides of my dart. So whatever you get for yours, you divide that by 2 and mark it on both sides of your dart. Then connect each of these points with a straight line down to the waistline just like this. So that's it for the underbust tightening. When you are done making your dress, you will confirm the difference. Now I'm going to connect what I have from the underbust into the bust point just like this. And I'll also connect what I have from my underbust on this other side into the bust point with my curve just like this. Now to complete this, what we'll be doing is to first of all get our new neckline. So the new neckline I'll be using is 7.5 inches. That's when the main dress will starting from, okay? So I'm going to mark 7.5 inch from this first shoulder line here. You can see where I placed my tape. I'm going to mark that on both sides here, and I'll also mark that 7.5 on this side here. Now I'm going to connect all these points together just like you see me doing. Now I'm going to be doing an over bust tightening, and to do that I'm going to come out by 0.5 inch on both sides of this line. So if you have a smaller bust size, let's say around 32 or thereabout, you can use 0.25. After marking that, I'm going to complete it into the bust point just like this. I'll just be outlining my armhole line just like this. Now after doing that, what we'll be doing is to replace these darts that we just took. Starting with the chest line, take what you have in between these darts here, and as you can see I have about 1 inch, so I'm going to replace that by the side, and then I'll be adding my stitching allowance, which is 1.5 inch. On the waistline also, what I have on my darts here to both sides is 0.5, so I'm going to be replacing 1 inch there, and then I'll add 1.5 inch stitching allowance. I'm going to connect these 2 points together with my curve. Then I'm going to go ahead and outline every other part of my pattern. Now we are done with the front pattern. You can go ahead and cut this out. Make sure to watch how I'm doing this to know how to go about yours. For this yoke, place them together like this and tape it down. Now we are done cutting out the front pattern. Here you have your yoke. Make sure to tape this down. Place it together like this and tape it down. This is the center front. I'll go ahead and label this center front CF, and it will be going to the side front this way, and this is the side front. We'll be connecting to the center front this way. I'll also label this the yoke. Now let's go ahead and draft out the back pattern. For the back piece, I've already gone ahead to draft out the basic bodice pattern, and as you can see here, from shoulder to bust point is 11 inches for me. And then shoulder to waistline, I have 17 inches here. And remember, we said the shoulder to waistline in front is 1.5 inch longer than the shoulder to waistline at the back. At the front, I had 18.5, so here is 17, and I've ruled a straight line across each of this point. On the shoulder line, I marked a neck width of 3.5 just as the front, and I came down by 1.5 inch. For the back neckline, you'll be using 1.5 inch instead of 3.5, okay? And then I marked out my shoulder slope, my armhole, just like we did in front. Just go ahead and do the same thing. Also, I have my zipper allowance here already. I marked it by 1.5 and I ruled a straight line across. The first thing you'll be doing is to mark half of your nipple to nipple measurement on your chest line down to the waistline. Now remember that in front we marked it from the bust point, so the difference is that at the back is going to be from the chest line, and I'm going to connect this with a straight line. Now on the waistline, I'll come out by 0.5 inch on both sides of this dart, and I'm going to connect it back into the chest line. After doing that, on the chest line, mark quarter of your bust measurement and then add 1.5 inch stitching allowance. On the waistline, mark quarter of your waist measurement, then take what you have in between your dart. What I have here is 1 inch. I'll replace that and then mark 1.5 inch stitching allowance. Then go ahead and connect this together to get your body shape. Now outline this waistline into the zipper allowance. What we'll be doing here is the zipper shaping to reduce any form of zipper bulge. Come in from this side of your zipper by 0.5 inch and then connect this point upward into your pattern just like this. After doing that, I'm just going to finish this neckline into the zipper. And just like we did in front, we are going to mark 7.5 inch from the shoulder line to serve as where the main bodice will be starting. So I'm just going to mark 7.5 inch across and I'm going to connect this with a straight line. I'll be labeling this my yoke. Now we are done with the back pattern. Just go ahead and cut this out just like you will see me doing here. Now that we are done drafting the front and the back pattern, you can go ahead now and cut this out on your fabric just like you will see me doing. So to cut out my pieces, I already have my fabric on fold here. I'm going to bring in my pattern starting with the center front. I'm going to place it on this folded area here, and then you can see that my fabric is short. That's the way I cut it. So I'm going to make sure that I leave enough stitching allowance up here and down here, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and pin this down. I'll be pinning down the side, front and the back pattern also. After pinning it down, I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. Starting with the center front, I'll be adding ½ inch stitching allowance to this side. I already have ½ inch up here and down here. For the side front, I'm going to add ½ inch stitching allowance to this side. To the side, I won't be adding any stitching allowance because we already did this on the pattern. Then to the armhole, I won't be adding any stitching allowance. To this upper part, I'm going to trim it off, adding ½ inch stitching allowance. And to this down part also, I'll be adding ½ inch stitching allowance. For the back piece, I'm going to cut it through the zipper and then through the side also. I won't be adding any stitching allowance to the armhole. And then I'll trim out the down part using ½ inch and also the upper part using ½ inch. Now we are done cutting this out. Now let's proceed to cut out the yoke of this dress. Now to cut out the yoke of this dress, I don't want to have a joining on my shoulder. So how I'm going to achieve this is to place my yokes at the shoulder and to place my yokes together at the shoulder. So I'm going to turn the back yoke this way just to make sure that this neckline here is the same. So it has to be like this. Then go ahead and tape it down. After taping it down, what we are going to do is to put our lace on fold. I have my lace on fold here, so I'm going to place my pattern on it like this, making sure that the center front is at the folded edge. So what I'm going to do now is to pin this down. Go ahead and cut this all the way around, adding 0.5 inch stitching allowance just like this. Now after doing that, you can see what I have here. I'm done cutting out my yoke and my bodice. Also, do not forget to cut out lining for your bodice. Okay, make sure that you cut out a lining for the bodice also, just like I've done here. Now let's proceed to cut the down part of this dress. For the down part of this dress, we'll be cutting the front and the back part the same way, and this is because there is slit in front and there is zipper at the back. So here I've gone ahead to cut out my fabric, and I have added 1.5 inch stitching allowance here, and I've gone ahead to rule a straight line across. Now if you can notice here, I have two pieces of this. One is for the front and the other is for the back. Now the next thing I'm going to do is just to rule a starting line at the top of this place. Now this starting line is also going to serve as the waistline, and from this waistline I'm going to mark other measurements, starting with the hip line. My hip line is 8 inches, so I'm going to mark that there. Then the next measurement you'll be marking is going to be your knee line. From the waist to my knee line is 23 inches. And then the last point you'll be marking is from your waistline to how long you want your dress to be. For me, the long length of my dress is about 46 inches. I'm going to add 1 inch to that for stitching allowance, and I'm going to mark this at 47 inches. I'll rule a straight line across of this, and then I'm going to cut this out. I'll also be connecting this other point with a straight line. After doing that, the next thing I'll be doing is to mark my round body measurement. Make sure you're taking your measurements after this line we marked here for the zipper allowance and the slit allowance. On the waistline, divide your waist measurements by 4 and mark that there. We will not be adding that to this, so just add your stitching allowance. I'll be marking 1.5 inch stitching allowance. On the hip line, mark quarter of your waist measurement and then add your stitching allowance. Then on the knee line, you will take the full measurement of what you have on your hip line, including the stitching allowance. For me, I have 13 here, as you can see, and then I'm going to remove 2 inches from that and mark it on my knee line. So removing 2 inches from 13, I have 11, so I'm going to mark 11 on my knee line, and then I'll mark the same thing I marked on my knee line on the length of my dress. Then I'm going to go ahead and connect this together just like you see me doing. After doing that, I'll go ahead and cut this out. The next thing you will be doing is just to pick one to be the front and the other one be the back. So I'll be using this upper one as the back. What I'll be doing here is zipper shaping to help to give us a better fitting. So from this point here, come in by ½ inch. And then come in from this other side by ½ inch. Then connect it into the hip line here, just like you will see me doing. After doing that, now I'm going to cut out this part following this line I just drew, and then I'm going to measure 7 inches down after this hip line here. I'm going to connect this into that part, leaving about 0.5 inch, just like you see me connect it here. Now this is going to help us to get a butt contour effect. So I'm going to go ahead and just trim this out like this. Now that we are done with that, we are done with the back piece. Make sure to notch where your zipper allowance starts. I'm just going to label this the back. I'm going to take it out, and this other one here I will be labeling the front. Now the front has a slit, so we are going to be opening this up. So I'm going to be cutting this through the middle all the way to the length of the dress. And that is all for the cutting part of this dress. In the next tutorial, which I'll be posting as soon as possible, I'll be showing you guys how to join this together to make this beautiful dress. Make sure to turn on your post notifications so you don't miss this tutorial when I post it. I hope this tutorial was really helpful. I'll see you guys in my next one.